Yes, YouTube, what are you telling me? It's Imhotep, aka Mr. Imo, and we're back again with another video. So today, we're gonna just have a bit more of a talk. It's not gonna be that deep, but we're gonna go a little bit in. So, on my first video, about how to tie a durag. In my description, I wrote a lot of stuff about, durags and stuff. And, how the world perceives us when we wear them, and, when to wear them, etc. a little bit. And it was something that a few of my friends, the viewers, I'd spoken to them about, and they gave me their viewpoints. And I've since had a little bit of a change of heart. But I'm gonna elaborate. So basically, what I was saying in the description of my first video was something along the lines of, you know what, guys, don't wear your durags outside. At the end of the day, it's not something that you need to keep your waves like fresh. It's not something necessary for the process. So there's no need to do it. You know what I mean? Don't do it, and all that kind of stuff. And also, the way people look at us and judge us when we are wearing our durags, we don't need that. So just make our lives easier and don't do it. And a couple of things came to my head since then. I was speaking to a friend of mine and he said, but you know what though, bro? I feel like I'm at a point where I'm thinking, do you know what, man? Bun it. At the end of the day, people are going to think what they think about me from the look of my appearance alone. And he's right. He was saying that, you know what, at the end of the day, my resemblance as a black man is it's unambiguous, you know what I mean? It's not something that I can hide by not wearing a do-rag or by, wearing certain clothes or whatever. And he said, and people are gonna, look at me and feel threatened and demonized by me in that way already. And he said, so what difference does it make if I don't wear my do-rag? And he said, if I don't, and if I do wear my do-rag, and people are feeling, what's the word he said? People are feeling, intimidated or threatened by that, then that's their personal problem. And, while I agree with this, like I really do agree with this, I think ultimately it doesn't really matter, what we do, because, there is a negative projection of black people in the world. And you can see that just by looking at the news and talking to people about who haven't got much experience with black people, just to see what they think. There's a lot of, I wouldn't say, there is a lot of negativeness towards it, but I feel like it's more that there's a lot of ignorance and misunderstanding. But I'm gonna go into all that later. But for now, I'm gonna stick with the durag talk, right? And yeah, so with this whole durag situation, what he said was right, and I said to him, I understand that, but then what about in America? Because obviously, I'm from London, innit? I'm from the UK, and it is deep in the UK. Like it's like racism and stuff. It's not a joke. But it's not to the extent that it is in America yet, So it's a little bit, for me, I would say, for me living in the UK, for us living in the UK, and for a lot of other people living elsewhere in the world where, we're not as like overtly and blatantly targeted, and our lives are not as overtly and blatantly threatened, it's easier for us to say, oh, well, you know what, I'm just going to wear my thing anyway. Like, for example, in America, from what I've seen on the internet, black people are getting killed for, less than nothing. But, having anything else that gives someone a reason to think that my life is worth less, that's something in America that I would never do. Like, you would never see me under any circumstance in America wearing my do-rag outside. It's like, my life is more important than my pride and, what I think about what I refuse to think about what other people think about me. And I feel like if you are living in America, I mean, ultimately live in your truth and, don't compromise yourself if you feel you're ready to do that. But I feel like if you are like a person who chooses to wear your do-rag outside, that's fine. Do you know what I mean? At the end of the day, you're just being your most authentic self. But my only thing I will say is, you're whatchamacallit, you are proactively choosing to isolate yourself by doing something that's different, and that's fine. But just be ready for people who are going to ask questions, people who are more likely to judge you, people who are more likely to stare at you. Like you have to be ready and willing to accept that as part of the result of your decision to do what you want to do. And that's calm, that's fine. But just be willing and ready to accept that, and you can't like switch on people if someone just says like, oh, you look like a gangster or something. Do you know what I mean? It's not right, and they are not entitled to say those things. But at the end of the day, that's then your responsibility to pattern them and explain to them, actually, no, do you know what I mean? And talk about it. And that's just how I feel about it, innit? Because sometimes I've just done a brush session, and a brush session is quite quite a long intensive thing, because you know, us wavers, we put our products in, we take our time to massage it in, we take our time, maybe half an hour, 2 hours, brushing and making sure that, you know, our hair is laid and the curls are coming into waves, and then we put the durag on to save that progress. If I've done all that late at night and I realize, oh shoot, I haven't got some milk for cereal, if I'm going to go to the shop, I'll just go to the shop with the durag on. Maybe sometimes I'll wear a hat on, a cap on over it, but at the end of the day, sometimes it's just too inconvenient to take off. And my thing is, at least for me, I am comfortable explaining to people about durags. I've done that plenty of times because I live here in Denmark, and you know, a lot of people are very ignorant towards that and they don't know anything about it. And most people, they will say things like, oh, so you're a gangster now, or oh, so you're a rapper now. And I'm just like, at first, you know what? At first, before I gained a bit more control and knowledge over myself, it used to really get me angry, and I would switch. Do you know what I mean? When people would say things like that. But now that I've been here a bit longer and I've learned a bit more and I'm calmed down a bit more and I'm able to, you know, build bridges instead of burn them a bit more, I say, actually, that's got nothing to do with it. And I explain to them, and I just work to dispel the ignorance, because by me like outwardly wearing it, if and when I do, I feel like that's a responsibility that falls to me, because at the end of the day, no one's going to teach them otherwise, and they're not going to be in circles where that's going to be a normality for them. So, you know, you don't have to do this, you don't have to think like I do, but if you do take up this responsibility to explain, do you know what I mean? A lot of the time, the responses that I've had from people is that they appreciate it, and they're like, oh, I didn't know, and it's like a learning experience, and it becomes a positive, like a growth for them, and for you as well, do you know what I mean? But, so yeah, so that's what I had to say about that. I also wanted to say a little bit about, going on to where I mentioned the resemblance. I started reading this book called Thinking Fast and Slow, and it basically, talks about, you know, the way that our brain works and the way we think about things. And one of those things that it mentioned is about, you know, the fast thinking, which relies on associative memory, which relies on, our kind of perception of how things should be, the resemblance of something. So like, for example, if I was to mention, well actually there's a good example given in the book here. It's a bit long, but I'll read it all, and hopefully you'll read it, you'll listen to it all, and you'll benefit something from it. But here it goes. Pardon me. An individual has been described by a neighbor as follows. Steve is very shy and withdrawn, invariably helpful, but with little interest in people or in the world of reality. A meek and tidy soul. He has a need for order and structure and a passion for detail. Is Steve more likely to be a librarian or a farmer? Now, if you're anything like me, you would have said librarian, because when I read that, I said to myself, someone's shy. Right? What do we know about this guy? We know he's shy. We know that he is got attention for detail, passion for detail, and he likes order and structure. And he's meek and he's tidy. Those four things stuck out to me, and you know, it just kind of, in my head, I had the picture of a fairly scrawny guy who's quite tall, with glasses, you know, that kind of like librarian kind of look or whatever. But statistically, the book goes on to elaborate and say that, you know what, statistically though, people don't really consider the reality of things, they just go by the resemblance. And that's very important relative to what I'm talking about here, which is where I'm breaking that idea of the resemblance by explaining to people, and I'm forcing people to use their brain and actually think about things and dispel ignorance. But I'm going to come back to what this book says here, because it continues on that, it explains a bit more about that. It says, the resemblance of Steve's personality to that of a stereotypical librarian strikes everyone immediately, but equally relevant statistical considerations are almost always ignored. Did it occur to you that there are more than 20 male farmers for each male librarian in the United States? Because there are so many more farmers, it's almost certain that more meek and tidy souls will be found on tractors than at library information desks. However, we found that participants in our experiment ignored the relevant statistical facts and relied exclusively on resemblance. We proposed that they used resemblance as a simplifying heuristic, which means just like a rule of thumb, that's what a heuristic is, to make a judgment. The reliance on the heuristic caused predictable biases, systematic errors, just like stuff that you can, it's going to happen again and again, in their predictions. So what that tells me, you know, as a person who, as a young black man, what that tells me, you know, about, you know, our situation is that at the end of the day, people have this resemblance idea of us, and they do not, you know they, what's the word? How did the book word it exactly? It said people will ignore relevant statistical facts and will rely exclusively on resemblance, and a lot of the time that is because sorry, I'm stuttering bare. That a lot of the time, what is it? Oh, allow it, man. I'm gonna make this video long. Yeah, a lot of the time, those relevant statistical facts are not always on hand to people when they have to make decisions to these things. So what I do is I present them with those facts, and I give them you know, an opportunity to speak and think from an educated standpoint. And that is what gives me the most progress when I speak to people about things like this and race and stuff like that. Most people are just speaking out of ignorance and resemblance, what they see on the internet, what they see in the memes, what they think they know from movies and stuff. But at the end of the day, people are ignorant to relevant statistical facts. So what do? I present them with that. And then from there we have a progressive conversation. Either there's two types of people. The first kind is the one who's genuinely ignorant and accepts that they're ignorant. And they will turn around and say, you know what, man, I didn't know that and I didn't understand that before, but thank you for taking your time to explain it to me. I have a roommate right now from Eastern Europe, and yesterday we were talking about a bunch of things. Like, he was asking me about dreadlocks, which he thought were called rastas, and you know, talking about a lot of things with Africa and stuff. And after the conversation, he was just like, yeah, okay. This was like a day or two ago. Then yesterday he comes and he says to me, do you know what, man? I just wanted to find the word in English to explain how, you know, I really felt when you explained that to me. He said that the way that I had explained it was impeccable. And I was just like, raw. Like raw, do you know what I mean? Like, this is all just from, you know, taking the chance, yeah? Educating myself first so that I can speak from an educated point of view, and then passing that truth onto somebody else and letting them have a chance to think for themselves, innit? That's all. I feel like that's all we have to start doing. More of us need to start doing more. Start reading. Start getting ourselves some books and knowledge, so that we can respond to ignorance with knowledge. And then, if the person is type 1, then they will turn around and they will say, you know what, thank you, I didn't know. But then in life there is the type 2, and the type 2 is the person that is aware of their ignorance. Like, they know better, but they choose to ignore because for them, you know, offending the people that they are ignorant about is less important than, you know, compromising their jokes to them. So they're not willing to you know, try to relate to other people. Everything must revolve around them. And with those people, you can't really change them even after presenting the truth. They're just going to be ignorant. And with those people, you know, you don't think too much. But I feel like the vast majority of the people in the world, they're type 1. And they are able to be reached through knowledge. So, like, it's a huge responsibility for us, all of us, to start reading. Do you know what I mean? I would really recommend this book. It's called Thinking Fast and Slow by Daniel Kahneman. I bought it off of Amazon, and I'll put the link in the video below. This video will probably take a while to come out because I want to get a nice backing track. One of my friends is producing beats, and, you know, I'll just have that coming out soon. But just wanted to talk about that and hopefully inspire a bit more discussion and comment on this channel, because that's what I want. I want this to be a place of progressive mental growth for everybody, not just about how to get waves. But on the topic of waves, there'll be another progress video coming out soon, because I don't know if you lot are following my Instas, my Snapchat and what, but my thing is banging, in it. It's coming through quicker than I thought. So I'm going to plug myself on the description below so that you can see, you know, you can follow me and get a bit more of an idea of, you know, myself, my mind personally. I only recently just opened Instagram again because for other reasons, but you know, that's going to give you a bit more of a chance to connect with me and hit me up and ask me questions. So you can also write in the comments. I've got apps on my phone, the app on my phone, so I can see when people say things. But yeah, that's what really I wanted to say. I ain't really got a sign out yet, but thank you lot for tuning in. For those of you who have stayed this far to the end, I really appreciate it. I hope that we've gained something from listening, and that, you know, we could get a bit of discussion going, because that's what all of this is about. That's what this whole channel is about, creating a progressive environment. But thanks you lot for watching, and peace out.